Welcome to the Compliance 911 Show, a no-nonsense podcast discussing hot topics for today's busy compliance professional. It's everything you wanted to know about regulatory compliance, but we're afraid to ask. And now, here are your hosts, Dean Stockford of M&amp Consulting and Len Suzio of GeoDataVision.
Good morning, Dean. It's nice to be with you again today. What interesting topic do you bring to the table for our audience today?
Hi, Len. It's always a pleasure to be with you as well. And I got a little extra bounce in my step. Spring is around the corner. I'm starting to feel the temperature changes. And so a lot of good things happening. So I'm pretty excited about that. But today I'm going to continue, even though I am not, quote unquote, the cybersecurity expert. I've kind of thrown myself into the fray of having to learn a lot about it and stay on top of it. I always say keep my thumb on the button because of the fact that with our staff and the sensitive information we always have. So I'm going to highlight cybersecurity risk and specifically phishing scams. I've just seen too many where people have fell to the scam, and I thought it would be great to discuss that. So as you know, in recent podcast, I highlighted cyber fraud risk and the importance of compliance professionals to revisit and, of course, enhance their compliance management systems to address those elevated risks. So today, I'm going to drill into what we call real-life phishing scams and their impact.
Dean, I think that's a great topic, and it's certainly a timely topic today. It seems like I hear about a new phishing scam every day.
Yeah, correct, Len. I can pretty much guarantee you do hear or experience attempted phishing attacks daily. I know I do. It's just off the charts and very alarming. But in fact, phishing accounts for about 90% of successful cyber attacks. And some recent data from an anti-phishing working group reported that over 3.8 million phishing attacks occurred within the last year. And in fact, in the first quarter of 25, there were over 1 million phishing attacks, which marks the largest attack volume since 2023.
Wow.
And then the volume increased slightly in quarter two, so it's not time to let our guard down for sure.
Wow. I mean, that is an alarming trend. Why do you think these are so popular among criminals?
Well, first and foremost, I think they exploit human trust rather than some type of technical flaw in the systems or security, and they are effective. From very convincing emails and messages to fake Wi-Fi networks designed to steal sensitive data, attackers are constantly refining their tactics. I kind of joke about it, but I always said we should probably hire a criminal, that specializes in this and try to head it off in advance. But the evolving landscape in 25 includes renewed tactics, emerging attack techniques, and making all of us just more susceptible for these threats, for sure.
Well, I know you spoke a few episodes ago about cyber risk and how AI has elevated that risk. So has AI played a role in the uptick of phishing attacks?
Yeah, well, I can certainly count on you to ask all the great questions and with some of the deep fakes and other things that are out there now. Yes, absolutely. AI driven phishing attacks surged over 1,000%. And this is a result of generative AI tools making attacks much more sophisticated, much harder to detect.
Okay. Sorry for this. I'm an old guy. Can you explain can you explain for the older part of the audience what generative AI is?
Sure. Well, I'm catching up to you. But certainly, generative, AI systems rely on advanced machine learning models capable of creating original content such as images, videos, audio, text, or even software code based on user prompts. Tools like Copilot or ChatGPT, those are some that are being used. And of course, I've kind of cautioned people on this in the past is the amount of information that you put out, profile as well as other types of information on social media really is the foundation that they work with in order to create these images and their all of the tools, I should say, that they need in order to attack. So all these tools can be very useful. They do produce content like articles. They create creative writing, reports, summaries, which they can be used against us in phishing attacks itself. So as I've mentioned many times over, phishing is a real threat with real consequences for everyday individuals and companies. So again, never let your guard down. But these criminals are constantly evolving their tactics, exploiting trust, urgency, and play on the emotions to deceive their victims into revealing sensitive information or the transferring of funds. Therefore, it's critical for enhanced training on real life incidents that will assist in underscoring why vigilance really, really matters in this case.
Well, I agree that training is an absolute must, as you can never have too much training, in my opinion. But can you provide some examples of real phishing attacks?
Yeah, I have a few, and of course they're substantial, and you can find them online. But I started to build a database a little over a year ago or so with the help of our IT provider, Main Technology Group, who's excellent in providing tremendous resources to us and newsletters and other things. So, phishing attacks are certainly important. So, I thought that perhaps if I started to build a little bit of a database to see some trends of what was happening, that would be beneficial in our training. But I cannot emphasize enough the need for ongoing training. I can only provide a few examples because we will be here all day. And as we know, we try to keep these things pointed and brief. But the three examples I'm sharing actually come from that recent newsletter from our IT provider, as I mentioned. They use them for training of our staff as well. So I know that they're real good. But example number one, and back in 2020, Twitter suffered a major security breach when attackers successfully used spear phishing in social engineering to compromise employee login credentials and gain access to internal administrative tools. Once inside Twitter's internal systems, the hackers used the stolen access to take control of about 130 high profile Twitter accounts, including those of celebrities, politicians, and major brands. So
Hmm.
as you can see, they were able to breach the security and get in and really create some havoc. Example number two, again, another high profile case, but from 2025, a New York City property management firm, Milford Entities Management, allegedly lost nearly $19 million after employees were tricked by a single phishing email impersonating the Battery Park City Authority. And the fraudulent message convinced staff to transfer large ground lease and tax payments into a bogus bank account, prompting a multi agency investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. I always say, you got to pause. If it doesn't pass a sniff test, it's kind of like, why would somebody be asking for this? Usually is the first question. So I would treat everything as though it is a phishing scam, and then work your way out from that point forward. But in the last example I have in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, a woman lost $87,000 after falling for a phishing scam that began with a fake Apple security alert on her computer. The pop-up prompted her to call a phone number where the scammers were posing as Apple support, claimed her computer and bank accounts were compromised. This is very common. And they convinced her to withdraw large sums of cash and actually deposit the money into a Bitcoin ATM. Again, another red flag. And we just have to be careful of these types of phishing scams because they're pretty sophisticated for sure.
Wow, and that's pretty scary as far as I'm concerned. I can certainly see why training is critical. What can you do? What can you share with the audience that might help offset or mitigate this risk? What kind of mitigation strategies do you recommend, Dean?
Well, certainly, I can name a few. Training is very important, so you can't emphasize that enough. But implement strong email authentication. It remains one of the most effective ways to stop spoofing, and of course, brand impersonations. Adopt advanced email filtering and technical safeguards. I mean, many organizations need layered technical defenses beyond just their traditional spam filters and perimeter. AI enhanced detection and behavioral based security, because cyber criminals are using AI to create hyper personalized and highly convincing phishing campaigns. So our defenders must adapt to that. And of course, they can use AI as well to assist them in some of their security efforts. It goes without saying, of course, and everybody should have this, but MFA, the multi-factor authentication, it remains a must-have, and though not sufficient on its own, very, very important. And again, these are just a few mitigation steps. There are many, and I would not, if I was, well, in any role, not just a cyber role within your organization, I would make sure that I bring myself up to speed on what the latest and greatest phishing attacks are. But institutions really need to understand what their risk profile is, and they have to apply mitigating strategies and try to reduce the risk of an attack as best they possibly can.
Well, Dean, this has been a great discussion about a scary topic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I want to thank you on behalf of the audience, and we do hope that the audience did enjoy today's podcast and learn something of value from it. This is Len Suzio from GeoDataVision.
And this is Dean Stockford from M&amp Consulting saying thank you for listening to today's podcast. And please let us know of any topics you'd like to hear in future episodes.
Thanks for listening to the Compliance 911 Show. If you like the podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. While you're at it, please give us a like and review to help others find the show. As always, links are in the show notes, and you can always find us online at compliance911show.com. Follow M&amp Consulting and GeoDataVision on LinkedIn for all the latest news and information on compliance hot topics.